Okay, as I talk about the Lens Academy and the Lens framework, which is leadership, entrepreneurship, networking, and sales, often hear me talk about networking. And networking and building your personal brand is a strong precursor to help you be effective in B2B sales. So I actually want to just dig into the word sales, because when most people think of sales or selling, a lot of people have a negative thoughts about it. Or they think, oh, if somebody's going to sell me, I don't want to be sold. Or for a lot of my entrepreneurs and business owners, when you are talking about your business, when you are talking about your product or service, and when you are telling people about the mission or vision of your business, you are indeed selling, okay? But the word selling often talks about what me, right? I want to convince you to buy and the old school selling model. It's usually sales is associated with convincing you or a buyer that what I have, you really want. And I just have to figure out the right words, the right phrase to do so, and hopefully you will buy from me. And so when I speak with a lot of my entrepreneurs and startup founders, that is one of the things that normally feels uncomfortable, because even as I help coach people on selling, and I reframe that and saying that I give people a framework for you to successfully sell your product or service, it helps to change the mindset on what you're really doing. And so instead of selling or sales, which is, I'll say that's old, I have begun talking to people about what I refer to as MPS. So MPS is an acronym I came up with, and it blends from the customer discovery process that a lot of entrepreneurs do when they are, especially technology entrepreneurs. Before you build it, make sure you find out what the problems are and how people go about making decisions, especially when it comes to purchasing. This becomes even more important when you are selling something of high value. In fact, when you are talking about selling and enterprise selling, I'll put down the relationship here. There's actually a direct correlation between the dollar value of the sale, or the dollar value or dollar amount of the transaction, to the relationship. So the more expensive or the higher the dollar value of the deal or the product or service you're trying to sell, the more important the relationship is. So this is why when I'm talking about networking, building your brand, and expanding your reach into an organization where you land and expand, the networking part becomes so important, especially because the more expensive the product is, there's usually at least 6 to 8 decision makers, right? And you have to get to know as many of those people as possible. And sometimes it's not even apparent. Sometimes you have to do a little digging around and some networking to find out who those people are. And sometimes they're even committees, right? So I used to think, and many of these startup founders that I work with and entrepreneurs and business owners that I work with think, oh, I just have to get to the one person, the VP, the CEO, the director, or whoever that is, and that is farthest from the truth. While they might be instrumental in making the decision, again, if it's a high value ticket item, which many B2B sales and products are, there's going to be multiple people involved. And just because you meet the VP, vice president, just because you meet the CEO, or just because you meet the director, that might help, but that is not going to help you close the deal. So again, sales or selling, the word tends to make you think, what do I want to do, and how can I convince you, buyer, that my product or service is what you really need. And so the whole perception around that is that it's focused on me, the person that's trying to convince. And when you think that way, you're going to miss out on the opportunity to really find out where there's significant opportunity and really how to connect with your buyer. And so instead of selling, I would rather say that we are going to do something different. Selling is old, and MPS is the new way, or at least my way that I love to talk about it. So what is MPS? MPS is an acronym for I'm learning and teaching people how to monetize problem solving. Okay? So you think about MPS versus sales. Just those two phrases or two words. Sales and selling sound like it's about me and what do I have, and my product or my service is so great, I just have to tell everybody and they're going to want to buy it, right? So sales tends to be more about me and what I want to push or promote or try to convince and persuade people to buy and give me money. However, if you learn how to monetize problem solving, that is a different ballgame. So here's an example. When people ask you, hey, Kirk, how are you doing? What's your initial response? Oh, I'm good. But that's not really what's going on. So sometimes you have to ask 3 to 4 different questions or build enough trust for people to be able to really tell you what the problem is. And that falls into those 3 words that are necessary for anybody to establish a long-term relationship with you, anybody to establish their network with you, and especially for people wanting to do business with you. Again, people have to know, like, and trust you, right? And when people know you, like you, trust you, they will feel safe in telling you what the real problem is. So if you are just trying to sell people and you're talking about the features and benefits and how great this is, but you haven't really figured out what the problem is, you're missing out. And sometimes getting to the problem not only is through trust with that particular person, but it also ensures that you are spot on in terms of what your product or solution can actually solve for them. So problem solving is the way to think about how you want to align your product or service with your potential buyers. So think about it. If there's a problem you really have that's been bothering you, and you find somebody that will solve it, more times than not, you would gladly pay that person, especially if they have a way to solve your problem, and it's going to save you the 2 T's, time, and it's going to save you money, or it's going to make you money. So one of those 2 things, generally, it's either going to save you time, it's either going to make you money or save you money in one of those different ways. But if you can figure out how the problem they have is related to the product or service you have, it makes it all about them, okay? And so first, if you build enough trust with them because they know you, like you, trust you, they will tell you about the problem through open-ended questions, right? You can't just say, well, what's your problem? Tell me your problem, tell me all about it. No, that's too wide open. You want to be able to guide the discussion. So instead, you might say something like, well, I know we're here talking about a new IT solution, but before I get into anything, all the things that I have to talk about my business, help me better understand your current IT solutions and what is working, what isn't working. Tell me more about that. And first of all, that's kind of general, but before you actually get into that discussion, I know, because you've listened to me, you've done your homework, and you know that there are things you can find out in the public domain about each of these customers, and certain things that might lead to the problems that they have. So being able to ask intelligent, thought out, well-researched questions helps you get from A to Z faster, right? And Z just meaning, what is the real problem, okay? So after you've asked the question and they give you an answer, the first answer, again, think about when people ask you, hey, how are you doing? What do you normally say? Oh, I'm good. So as you ask those questions, you have to learn how to get to like the 5 whys, as they say. So the first, why are you doing it? Oh, well, it's just what I do. No, really, second why. No, really, help me better understand why is that the best way that you're doing that procedure? Well, that's the way they've always done it. Well, why has it always been done that way? Well, as long as I know, we've been following this protocol, blah, 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 blah. So you can see the more you ask, the more layers, like peeling layers of the onion back until you figure out what is the real problem. And then once you get to the real problem, the beauty is you either are a fit or you're not, right? And both of these are winning situations. If you get to the problem and you figure out, you know what, I'm not the person for you, I'm not the match, you know how you can cut this thing off, not waste any more of their time, they will be grateful, but here's how you can actually win. You can even say, I'm not the answer, I don't have the solution, but I know somebody and I can help you. Right? So all is not lost. Even though you may not get the sale, we play the long game. And I can tell you numerous instances where maybe a client did not do business with me because I wasn't a fit, but I helped them anyway. Those people, those potential customers will tell other people, they will remember that I helped them, and more times than not, when there is a fit, they will come back to me and that door will always be open. So again, in the words of Nelson Mandela, I never lose. I either win or I learn. And so even if I'm not a fit, I learn how to keep the door open by helping them out. If I am a fit, that's fantastic. And the thing you need to do from this point forward is not just focus on, oh, I'm a fit, and I found out the problem. Now you want to quantify the size of the problem. So now we've qualified the problem, right? We know what it is, but now we want to quantify the problem. Why is that important? Because many times when you're getting into a large B2B sale or any kind of sales situation where you're trying to monetize problem solving, one of the first things people do, and I even try to do this as well, is like, you know what, that sounds good, I like it, just tell me what the price is. Price is a trap. Price is relative. Price is relative to the size of the problem. So you might have qualified the problem, but until you're able to quantify it, meaning how much does the problem cost you? What is the pain point? If this problem doesn't get fixed, how will this impact your revenue? How will this impact your cost? How will this impact retention? So you want to find these quantifiable metrics or quantifiable data to help be an anchor to price. So if you are solving you find out that this problem is, $10 million, and you're offering it for a solution to solve the problem for $10,000, that's a big gap. There is room for money and profit, okay? So, but you would never know this if you don't quantify and qualify the size of the problem. So in this whole exercise, I just want you to get an idea of the exercise that I work with my clients that are both entrepreneurs, startup founders. Sometimes they are people transitioning into sales or account development, account management roles. And this is a great exercise to help reframe your thinking, because you don't want to just sell, convince people, and fall in love with your product or service. You want to fall in love with their problem. And if you can get them to know you, like you, and trust you, they will actually tell you how much time and money that they're wasting or losing because of the problem they have. Ask the right questions. You'll be able to accurately qualify the problem. And then once you do that, you can determine if they are a fit or if you guys have a love connection and if you're able to help them. If not, help them out anyway. That's how you build relational equity, and I'll talk about that later on. But relational equity has a long shelf life, and it will, I promise you, in certain ways, it will come back to you. If they are a fit for you, then you want to find out how to quantify the size of the problem, because if you qualify it and you quantify it, it will help you know that when you get into pricing, you're pricing it relative to the size and scope of the problem, not just because it sounds good to you. Because many times, if you don't quantify the size of the problem, you will leave profit and money on the table, all right? So I hope this helps you reframe the way that you think about monetizing problem solving versus sales. If you need some help in learning how to adopt this kind of process in your business, click the link below that's in my bio or at the end of this video, and I'd be more than willing to talk with you about how I've helped companies actually recoup some margin and make more money on each product because you're able to qualify the problem, quantify the problem, and we no longer sell, we monetize problem solving.